Hello everybody. In this video, we're going to be remaking a version of this website, which is called listenonrepeat.com, which allows you to play a YouTube video that's embedded and specify a range in terms of the section in the video that you want to replay. And the website is just going to replay those few seconds over time. So we're going to rebuild this, but make it better in terms of you know how the granularity of this is seconds, and I want to make it even more granular and specify milliseconds, and also be able to use hotkeys, so pressing a key on your keyboard to record when you want to start and stop a video. So I can see this being useful if you're interested in dancing or trying to replay a certain part of the video over and over again until you get it. So yeah, let's get started. In terms of the prerequisites for how to do this, we're going to be using a technology called Vue JS. So Vue is a JavaScript framework that allows you to build really responsive websites, and it's very friendly. And yeah, I'm going to take you through how to use this. I expect a little bit of programming experience. I'll explain everything that I'm doing, and you can follow along even if you don't have any programming experience, but I think you'll get the most from this if you have just a little bit. And yeah, let's get started. Another thing to mention is that I will be treating this like a real project where I have to launch a website, have it be publicly available, and use this thing called version control, which is what a lot of people in the software industry use, which allows you to keep track of your changes and document everything that's going on. So in case of, let's say this project is a pretty good success and you have to look back a year later at code that you wrote a year before, how do you remember all the things that you've written and why you decided on a certain solution? Or if it's really successful, you'll have more than one engineer maintaining that code base, and it's very important that documentation is done pretty well from the very beginning. So first of all, I'm going to start by making a GitHub repository. A repository is something that holds your code and keeps track of changes, and it's something that you can allow other people to see. And so what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to follow the guide a little bit. But you can basically go ahead and go to your terminal. I basically usually like to do a quick start. I get the latest Vue version. And there's this nice little interface that allows you to specify the project name and all that. So I'll just do YouTube looper, YouTube looper. Okay, and let's do yes. So TypeScript is just a way of writing JavaScript that allows you to know what the types are. So let's go with that. JSX, I don't think I need that. Add view router for single page application. Yes, let's do that. Add Pania for state management. So this allows you to unify where the data is coming from. Let's go for that. Do we want unit testing? Yes. So unit testing is a way for you to maintain your code base and make changes confidently without breaking existing functionality. So yes to that. And end-to-end tests. Yeah, let's add an end-to-end test solution. We're not going to touch that at the very beginning yet. Add ESLint for code quality. Sure. So code quality is are your spaces consistent? Do your function names have the right camel case versus snake case convention throughout the code base? And ESLint's a way to easily flag those, along with many other common JavaScript conventions. So yes, add prettier, yes. Okay, so now we're going to go into our little directory. So CD is change directory. So we made a directory called YouTube looper. So now we can enter that directory. And then we're going to do npm install. So this will install all the dependencies. So if I open up a new tab, I'm going to basically show you the GitHub repository and all the files that those commands that I just ran have created. And then you can look at the package.json, which is the dependencies. So these are the things that our web app relies upon in terms of like other people's code, code that you're not writing, but code that is like essential for the foundation of an app that works. So this is kind of, this is the file that specifies all the dependencies, okay? And yeah, we're gonna wait for this command to finish before we're gonna run this command to start the server. And then once we start the server, we can see what the basic pages that we have are. I'm going to go through a little bit of the file structure. We have this main.ts file, which is kind of the boilerplate that's needed to set up our main app.vue file, which is defining our home page. So if you do npm run dev, it will start a server on localhost, which means that it's a server that's only run locally on your computer. So localhost is only available locally. It's not available to everyone in the world. That will come later. So if you go to that page, you'll end up on this site. And this is basically the code that you have. So if you, for example, if we move that over here, and then now we're gonna edit some code now. So let's say you wanna change this home button to something else, you know, like home screen. If I click save, it will automatically reload all the code that's needed to run this page, and you can see that that's that. If I want to remove the about, or if I want to remove the home screen, I can just get rid of it, right? And so changes are pretty immediate. And yeah, so now you can click between the home screen and the about page. If you click into the about page, there's this thing called router.js, or within the router folder, there's an index.ts file, and this defines all the routes. So we have slash route. Okay, so that's the slash route. We have the slash about route, which is the slash about here. And yeah, so let's actually clean up some of this because we don't really need all of it. Let's just get rid of the abouts page, and we're gonna change it to, actually no, we're just gonna add another link, and it's gonna be YouTube looper. Let's just add that. YouTube looper. Okay. Click save. Let's see what happens. Now there's that. And if you click here, it will take you to a site that doesn't work. Now, if you look at inspect and you look at the console, it will have this error message. So this is a way the computer tells you, hey, you may have something wrong. So if you're wondering why nothing loaded when I click YouTube looper, well, it's because there's no match found with that path. And this is in the router. So if we go to the router now, and we add, again, I'm just pattern matching here. So looks like there's a path variable here. Okay, path, let's do YouTube looper. Name YouTube looper. And then we're gonna do a component, okay. And looks like it's importing a view. So let's do YouTube looper.view. Okay. So now, what's the error? Well, it says that it's not able to import this. Well, obviously I need to create this file. So if you look at the about.view file, it exists. So let's create a YouTube looper.view file. So YouTube looper.view file. And if you look at the about page, I'm just gonna copy that over. Looks like there's like, you know, a template section, which is HTML. HTML is markup language for defining what's on a page. And there's a style element that's, you can think of it as logic that styles certain page. So let's take a look at this YouTube looper header, YouTube looper. So YouTube looper. Okay, so I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna refresh. And now we have YouTube looper. Let's say we wanna style this. Well, we can do H1, you know, I don't know, color green, save it, now it's green. So that's kind of how styling works and template works. That's the main difference is this. You can even change it to, I don't know, text, align, right, or something like that. and now it'll go to the right. So basically this is how you control the positioning and orientation, styling. You can even do like, background color, yellow. This is ugly, but you could do that. You can even be very specific and do something like YouTube looper text. And now you can just target the H1, specifically YouTube looper text. And it'll just target that one and not all the H1 components in our code base. Gray, maybe? Okay, good. So that's our setup. Now let's take a little detour, because it's a professional software project, not just a hobby project with no vision for the future. We're going to open our console. We're going to actually set up our version control system. So right now, this is not a Git repository. We're going to make it a Git repository. And how we do that is we go to GitHub, and we're going to create a new repository. So if you haven't signed up for an account on GitHub, you should create one. I'm going to make it private for now, and I'm just going to do YouTube looper project. And this is going to be like project for looping within a YouTube video in embedded format. Cool. Private. Cool. So we're going to create the repo. And now we're going to follow the instructions. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do git init. So this makes this folder a GitHub repository. And I'm going to just add all the files. So if I do git status, it's going to show you all the files in red here that are not added to our repository. I'm going to do git add -a. And then if you do git status, you can see that all the files in my system are in this folder are now added to the, are now staged. So now if I write a commit, so a commit, you can think of it as like you're writing a book, and it's like a chapter in a book, and you're just writing like a summary of what's in that chapter. So if I were to explain to you how this code works in a story, this would be like, part of my story. So like added initial files for the YouTube looper project. There is now a section on for the YouTube looper user interface, and can be accessed via the YouTube looper path. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm just going to push this, but I can't push that to anywhere unless I set up the remote path. So basically, I need to connect this local repository to this GitHub thing, this GitHub repository I made. So if I just copy this function, and then I want to change my main branch to the main instead of master, because of it's offensive to be using master now. So yeah, so now we're going to push that to main. Okay, so I just basically resolved the issue by making sure that I have in the GitHub settings keys section, I have a list of SSH keys, and basically I did ls of this directory, and I basically wanted to look up what the public key here is, and then I did a pb copy, which copies the contents of this file, and then I was able to create a new SSH key. And once I did that, I was able to git push -u origin main. So now that we have our GitHub repo set up, we are going to go back to, we're just going to view that basically. So YouTube looper, and yeah, here are all the files, and here are the commits. So there's one commit right now. It is this added initial files for YouTube looper project. And if you look at you can see basically what changes are made, and you can see the commit messages that came with the commit. So this is basically an explanation of the story of this code base. All right, so Moving on. Now what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to embed a YouTube video on this in this section. So how do we do that? We're going to do that by using this library called plyr. So if you go to Google and you search plyr, GitHub, which allows you to embed videos from various video sites, YouTube, Vimeo, HTML5 video as well. And if you go to their GitHub, you can follow the instructions on how to add it to your code base. And it's very, very awesome because it actually makes things a lot easier, and it gives you certain methods that you can use. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the Vue section, and we're going to use the library that the person has made for Vue. So if you go back to our code base, okay, if we go back to our YouTube looper directory, we can do something like npm add vue-plyr-save. And what this will do is this will add this file to the package.json file and install it so that we can start using it. So let's give this a quick moment while it gets the library. And then we can follow the instructions here on how to basically import this library and set it up so that we can start using it. So let's look at the code here. We have a main Vue file. So this was this app.vue file. And then here's all the setup code. And so this is where we want to put this code in here. So let's wait until this finishes first before we proceed. But yeah, we can read it. Looks like we're going to have to, we already have the app, and yeah, okay, so I'm going to refactor this code base a little bit. We don't really need to do app. We could just do use create vanilla, okay, use router, okay, mount app. So this puts it in the div that has app as the ID. So this should be equivalent. And what we need to do is we need to add this section there. So, okay, looks like it finished. So yeah, we're gonna have to add this section here. So let's just do it right at the beginning. Okay. And we're gonna have to import this vue-plyr and the CSS. So let's do that. Okay. All right. And let's just save it and see if the page loads. Okay. And let's actually restart the server. Okay, good. So now there's no warnings. Okay, so let's take a look at how do we actually embed a video there. And also let's take a look at, oh, that's just iTunes. Okay, we can use a YouTube video. Yeah, let's look at a sample. And the thing that I want to use is, let's just do a YouTube element here. YouTube div element. Let's do YouTube because that's a little better. And let's stick it in YouTube looper. So YouTube looper. So we have the header. Let's just stick this in here. I'm actually going to expand out the comment or the properties out a little bit so it's easier to fit on a half size window so you all can see. Basically, I just pasted this in here. I don't know what YouTube video this is, but let's just see what we got on the local host, whatever's running this. I forget what the server is. Localhost. Okay. Cool. So if we go to YouTube Looper, there is an embedded YouTube video. Yay! And it looks like there's a little bit of responsiveness going on. That's fine. We'll just deal with that later. We can even style this div. So this is like, I don't know, class equals YouTube player, like video wrapper or something like that. And you can style it. So you can do like video wrapper with, let's say it's 50%. Interesting. 200 pixels maybe. Okay, I think we have to put that in a div above that. So let's do that. Okay, cool. So now this actually works. So you can make it 500, you can make it 80%, you can make it float right. You can do margin left auto, margin right auto, which will center it. Right, so yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna do 80% and float left for now. I'm not worrying too much about the style there. And yeah, so now we have the video. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to see if we can actually figure out some metadata about this video. So if you look at Plyr, the documentation of it, you can actually extract out look at the API specifically. We can get access to the Plyr itself and actually print out the time of the video. So you can imagine as the video is playing, there's like both minutes, seconds, but also even more like milliseconds and whatever granularity it goes to. You can actually print out the time, and that allows you to, that'll give us a sense of like, okay, could we start to save like exactly more granular time and have it repeat over and over again? Can we do that? And so yeah, let's do that. Just let me find my reference that I was using. Okay, so here's where we're going to introduce something more fancy, but first let's commit very small changes. So git add, this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add these two files here. This is added Plyr library. This library will help with embedding a video with a nice API to work with. Okay, and then you can do git diff, and this is including the library and an example video. So make use of Plyr library within the YouTube looper page. This adds an example YouTube video along with vue-plyr usage. Okay, so that's, and then I'm going to do git push, and that should make it to our little GitHub repo that we have over here. So now if you look at commits, now there's total of 3 commits. One is, add the initial files, followed by adding the Vue library, followed by making use of it on the screen. So, now we can go back and see how these changes are made later on. Okay. So let's actually use some Vue stuff. So what we're going to do is create some data points, and we're just going to first see if we can get the time. So let's have a display of the time. Like right now it's 2:07, right? Or that's the remaining time, but I want, this time, which is like 1:58, but also the milliseconds, and I want to print that out in real time on a screen below here. And what that's going to do is it's going to see kind of what data we can work with. So we're going to do this thing called script, okay? And this is where the Vue code will come in. So first of all, we need to get access to the Plyr, like the vue-plyr, and basically we need to find out how to get access to this stuff here. So we're going to use the typical export default syntax on Vue, and this is going to be the let's give it a name. I don't think we need a name. Let's just call the setup method and we also need the mounted method. Okay. In the mounted, let's just say we got this thing called a store. Let's just say let player equals null. Let's say player is null, and then let's just call it video player actually. Okay. So when the component is mounted, we're gonna call this refs.player.player. Okay. It's going to be player.videoPlayer. And what that means, okay, so I'm going to explain to you what this refs does. So if you do view refs, template or something like that. So what's going to happen is if I add this piece of code, specifically, in the view player, I do ref equals, right, video player, right? I can now refer to it. And now I can do dot player and it'll exist. So let me just look at, yes, template refs. Yes, here we go. So if you look at this article, it's basically this like way of referring to a specific thing in your HTML. So if I have a ref called the video player, I can do this.refs.videoPlayer and it'll basically refer to this view player component. And according to the documentation, if I access it, I can do a lot of things to it. So once this is set up, now we can figure out how do we print out the time. So we're just gonna do this thing called setInterval. And you can imagine setInterval is something that's just gonna run every time you know, a certain amount of milliseconds pass. So right now, let's just do 1 second. So every second it's gonna call something, and I'm gonna do video player.player. So video player dot, let's just do player. Let's just say this is the player. Okay. So once it's mounted, it's gonna set that, and now we have access to a lot of things. So now if we do console.log player.current time, it should log the video. It should log the video's current time every 1 second. So if you save this, and if you open up the inspection and click on console, fresh, right, it's gonna say 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 every second. But if you start playing it, right, it will give you a sense of, okay, this is the current time in which the video is playing, which is great. So now that we have this functionality, and now that we have access to this, you know, API, we can do really cool stuff with it. So if you look at the methods, you can see, you can rewind, you can forward, you can jump to a specific time. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. So let's add a couple buttons. Okay. And the couple buttons is going to be like capture start time. Okay, and then function capture end time. Okay, so we're going to add 2 buttons here. So we're going to add a button. It's called capture start time. Start. Right, and we're going to add another button that's going to be called capture done, or capture end time. And let's just make these buttons, I don't know, same. So padding, you know, 16 pixels, background blue, Sure, why not? Let's take a look at where that is. Okay, cool. And let's give it some margins too, because I don't know, things seem very okay, so now you have these two buttons, and we're gonna give it an action. So when you click on capture start time, we want it to call capture start time. And so how you do that in Vue is you add this @click callback, okay? And you're gonna pass in the function. So in this case, it's capture start time. And then here, capture end time. And because we're using the this syntax for setup in the component, you can do capture start time. You just need to return it so it can access it. So now if we do, console.log, so this is a way that I'm just gonna debug how something works. Start time is clicked, and then here's how the end time is clicked. Now if you look at the console, for example, you can now, okay, so let's just double check this. Looks like it's null. Looks like there's an issue with the loading. Okay, let's just see what's going on here. This.media is null. So which line is this? So, okay, we're just gonna actually take a look at what's the problem here. So this.media is null. What does that mean? Why does that happen? Player.player mounted. Okay, let's just do if player is not null, then you log it. Otherwise, we don't want to log it yet. Okay, cool. So let's start playing, and we're going to capture the start time. So we're just going to click on this. It should just show the message. It should basically execute the code here. So if you click on this, yep, you can see it's capturing the start time. You click on this, yep, you can see it's capturing the end time. Okay, great. So that is working now, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna capture it. So let's create another variable, but this time it's gonna be a special variable. We're gonna do this thing called a ref, because we want to capture and show it on the screen what we've captured. And so we need a special thing to let Vue know that this is something that's going to change. Okay, so we can do the ref, and basically we're going to say, okay, the start time, right, is, let's just say it's 0. End time, let's just say it's 0. Okay. Well, okay, first there's no, well, you always start at 0, but you don't really have an end time yet. Let's just say that the start time is the player.current time. Okay, so if player is not null, then you capture the start time as the player's current time. And we can also add like, and player is playing. So the video needs to be playing. If you look at the documentation here, right, you have this Boolean playing, which means you can actually do that. And then capture end time, yep, player is null, and the player is being played right now. Then you will, again, do the same thing, but this time with the end time dot value equals the player time. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually add a separate section that's going to talk about the start end values. So start time, and then it's going to be, now here the magic is we actually have reference to the start time and end time, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually return that as well. So start time is this guy. Okay. And end time is this guy. Okay. So now if you look at the code, you've got, okay, there's a start time and there's an end time. None of this is going to do anything because it doesn't pass this if check. But the video is playing now. We can start capturing the start time. So if you want to just start that, okay. And then if you click the end time, okay, so something's wrong with the end time. Let's debug this. So end time is null right now, but how come it's not being set? Let's take a look. Okay, looks like there's a typo here. It should be playing. Okay, so we're going to try this again. Start time, end time, start time, end time. Great. So now that we have these two, how do we make it loop between the two? How do we make this loop? Well, we have this function called setInterval. We can check whether or not the video is before or after the start time and end time. And if it is, then you can make the video go to a specific time. So let's take a look at if video is not null and player is playing. Okay. Instead of this logging the time, we're just going to do this thing called, we're going to add some extra if statements. So I'm going to add some comments here if the player is playing, right? And if the current time goes outside the start time and end time, and the start time and end time are set, then we should, let's see, make sure, like, move the player back current time to the start time. Okay, so if end time is not null, okay, and end time dot value, so end time dot value greater than start time dot value, so it needs to be valid. Then you can say player dot current time equals start time, but you should still keep it playing, right? And I want to sample this every 200 milliseconds, for example. So let's start with this video. Let's say we want to replay this part of it, like this, like, you see the shot of this zooming out of the seaside view. Let's see if we can just capture that moment. So capture, end. Okay, so now it's going to replay just those two parts. And let me just take a look at console, see if this, okay, so there looks like there's an error here. YouTube looper line 16. Okay, this not media is null, so it looks like there's an issue here. Let's try it out. I'm just gonna pick a random time now. Capture, end. Looks like there's an issue with the media playing. Let me just check, because I have this thing that basically makes it so I can't load a YouTube video every 20 minutes. No, this looks fine. Okay, so now it's time to debug what's going on here. I can log the status, right? Status or state. Status. I'm gonna log the state. Let's just see if I can do that. Undefined. Okay, I actually don't really have this. Anyway, let's just see what's going on right now. So again, this is part of the natural process of coding where you gotta debug something. So let's debug this. So start And so for some reason, it's taking the player back to, okay. I think it's calling the method way too many times because it's going to call this a lot. What it needs to do is it needs to be something like if the end time is greater than start time and the current time is greater than this. Okay, I'm just going to add a variable, current time outside range. Right. And it's outside the range if player.currentTime is greater than this, is less than the start time, right? Or I'm going to put this in parentheses because I want to be very clear how the different variables are grouped. Player.currentTime greater than endTime.value. If those things are true, right, then you set it. Otherwise, you're not going to do anything. Okay? And this is like setting current time to start time. Okay? So we're going to retry this, play this, start, finish. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, looks like it's being called a lot, and that's not cool because I just want it to be called once. So if the current time is less than the start time, or the player time is greater than the end time. Let's take a look at let's try this again. Capture. Okay, current time is 0 for some reason. Even though it's not 0, it's 0.3. So we've got a problem here. Because the time is 0, even in the first time it sets it. Let's take a look at this. Well, the first time it sets it, it's that, and then it gets set to 0. But I think it takes some time for this to actually happen. Okay. Maybe we gotta set it to the value. Let's try it out. Okay, because it's setting it to the value and not the integer or the float number. Okay, good. So let's try it again. So just to recap, the error was I didn't set it to a value. Capture start time, capture finish time. So you can see that it's going between that. So now let's refresh, and we're gonna actually try to get that scene that we were trying to get to earlier. Let's just choose a scene. Okay, let's just do that. That zooming in of this shot, and then once the shot finishes. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's just see if we can just zoom in. Let's just see if it repeats the shot over and over again. Okay, and let's try to capture it a little bit earlier. All right, so now we're just gonna basically replay this over and over again. There we go. So there we go. So that's how we've implemented this YouTube looper. It's pretty simple. You start playing it. You capture the same zooming in, the same sequence over and over again, and I'll just start repeating it. And you could do it to milliseconds. And a lot of digits here. What we can do, very simple function, is to reduce the number of digits that are shown And you could do this with toFixed. So if you look at this, you can change the to toFixed2, which means this float number is now only showing 2 decimal places. And you can just replay it over and over and again. And yeah, there we go. So that's how we have our own YouTube video. One last thing that we're going to do. So before that, actually, we're going to commit this message. So let's see. Reset. Okay, I'm going to actually do git add patch this time. I'm just going to show you what this functionality is. This allows you to look at the specific changes that you're adding. So here I'm adding a script that captures all the things in terms of the data that we need to keep track of. And here we have some buttons and that. So I think, yeah, yes, I'm going to add all that. Am I going to add the styling of the button? Yes. Okay. So git commit. So add looper logic to capture the start and end times. This will allow us to, capture the start and end times while a video is playing, and after that, everything will be repeated in that loop. Okay, so that's save the version control. Let's actually add another button, and it's just going to be like reset or something like that. It's going to be very simple. What this allows us to do is it just resets the time. Okay, so we have this click call. Now we're going to have to create the function, which again should be very simple, and we're going to have to return that function. And again, we're going to do start time dot value equals 0, and then end time dot value equals null. And so that will allow us to just let the video keep playing and not have any issues. So looks like there's something wrong with the loading. Let's just see what happened. Setup.endTime is null. Okay. 73. Okay. If is not null, then you return this. Otherwise, I don't know, nothing. Okay. So let's start. And then we're going to capture the end time. So now we're just going to do, it's going to replay the first 3 seconds over and over again. But if you reset, now it's just going to play the rest of the video. So now that we have added a reset button, let's commit this. So added reset button to the UI. Very simple. And I'm going to push that to the repo as well. Okay, what's next? You know how we hard coded this URL? Well, we don't need to do that. We can just dynamically generate it. So yeah, let's figure out how to do that. So to do that, we're just gonna go to the documentation a little bit and figure out how to do that. So we've got this YouTube div, got this ID field. Let's see. Okay, so I think how this is going to work is we're going to add a little text box at the top of this file. Okay, so we're going to add an input box. Let's do this input field, and this is going to say, I'm actually going to look this up a little bit. So HTML input. Okay, we kind of want something like that. So it looks like there's a label and an input. So the label, it's going to be YouTube ID, video ID. And no, it's going to be YouTube. Let's just say it's YouTube video ID. YouTube video ID. And then you're going to have text. ID is YouTube video ID. The F name is YouTube video ID. Sure, why not? Okay. Okay, and you're gonna basically, let's just give it a little bit of padding. So, I think we're gonna add a little bit of a, okay, so the video wrapper, I'm just gonna put that above the video wrapper and then give the video wrapper a little bit of margin top. Give a little space. Also give this a little space. Okay, so we can put in like a YouTube video ID, and let's just take a look at how Vue does it, because I think Vue has some nice little shortcuts. So Vue input, form bindings. So I'm gonna actually just expand this out because I'm gonna have to write some stuff in here. Basically, I want this embedded ID field to contain the Vue variable. Okay, so we have this thing called vModel. Let's add that. vModel equals YouTube video ID. Okay. And then we'll just do something like that. Just add that there. Okay. And this vModel, we're gonna have to put it in a I think we just need access to this variable as a ref in the component. And that should be good. So if you look at let's try it in the playground. Data selected, colon, okay. Okay, into video ID. And then now we can refer to it if we need to. Okay. So let's take a look at the inspect element console. Okay, looks like there's not much of a video ID here. So I need to figure out how to have this embedded video ID be dynamically generated. So let's go to Google, and we're gonna go to vue-plyr dynamic input. Let's just take a look at that. Okay, so maybe it's a thing on the video. So let's take a look at the API real quick here. I wonder if you can add a like an ID. No, not really. Okay, let's actually take a look at what happens if you set the embedded ID to, okay. View set field on a div. Yeah, video URL. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Okay, so it looks like they were doing player.source. So let's do that instead. Okay, so I think you can just get rid of this div then and just have video player. And then you would say button load video. Okay, and then you would have at click load video, and you have a function that's called load video. Function load video, and this would be if player is not null. You would do player.source, so source equals, okay, type video sources, okay, source YouTube, provider YouTube. Sorry, the source would be basically the YouTube video ID value. And then make sure you have your commas. Okay, so let's take a look at the page now. Load video. Okay, you probably don't have the ID. Let's just paste the ID in, load video. Let's see. I might have to put the code that we had back in just a little bit and see what that does. So just give me 1 second. Because again, the video player isn't playing, so I might need a div down there still. Definitely in debugging mode right now. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so let's reload. So we've got like a salsa video. Okay, we got the original video. Okay, good. I think once you load the URL, okay, so maybe we just don't need an ID at this point. We don't even need it. Maybe we just need to have a div in there. No, we maybe we just need to have the provider. Okay, here we go. And then now if we plug in a, okay, maybe we just need both that, but not have that set to anything. And then if we click here, it's gonna reload. Nope, okay. Very interesting. Okay, I guess you need to have the placeholder, but if you change the video, so if we go to like YouTube, if we change the video now, let's take a look at this one here. Whoa, what was that error? This video contains content from blocked. Okay, anyway. play. Ah, okay. So you can't really embed all these videos, which is very interesting. Video sample ABC. Okay, let's take a look at this. So copy that in. Load video. This should work. Okay, start. All right, cool. So let's capture start time. Let's capture the end time. And now it's gonna go between those two forever and ever. There we go. You can reset it and it'll just continue playing the whole video, which is great. So I guess we needed a little, guess we needed both these fields in there first before we do anything with the video, which is kind of interesting. I don't know why that is, but I guess it doesn't matter, to be honest, because this whole thing is working now. So let's add this to the git commit repository. So this is like added dynamically YouTube video ID input box. Okay, so now that that code is in our code base, that is it. Let's figure out how to deploy this to GitHub Pages. And now we have our little app. So let's see, create a repository, and then okay, so we're going to figure out how to deploy this to GitHub Pages because it should be pretty easy to do. What GitHub? I'm using a terminal. Okay, so the repository needs to be named GitHub username.github.io, where the username is your username organization name on GitHub. Interesting. So this will only work if you have, okay, let's try something else. Let's try Netlify actually, because that's also a pretty simple website to deploy a little Vue app. If you look at the pricing, there should be a free version of it. So let's actually do that. Okay, so now that we have our Netlify account signed up, let's import from Git. I'm going to connect it to my GitHub account. Interesting. It's been authorized. Oh, okay. Allow pop-ups. Only select repositories. The one I want is the one about YouTube Looper. That's the one. And then I want the main branch, base directory. Okay, so let's see how the command is like. Let's actually take a look at what npm run build does. Okay, I guess it does build. Okay, so that looks fine. It's fine. I don't think I need to run tests. Let's take a look at a test. I think this needs to run before I can do anything. Let's try this again. JS option should be true. Take a look at that. vue-plyr from Vue. Let's take a look at this. Looks like we need TypeScript, so it doesn't exist. Declare module. Okay, I guess we have to declare module. .d.ts. Interesting. Huh. Okay, so let's work through this. Let's take a look at what that does. It's important that this builds. Okay, cool. So that was able to build. Okay, so git add tsconfig. So this basically, we're using this thing called TypeScript, which has more strict checks on what types that you want. And I'm just gonna do a workaround that I found while Googling for a solution here. Again, this is not great. Usually we should declare types, but I just want to get this working. Yeah, let's see what happens when you deploy site. I'm sure this is going to fail. Building. So once you build, you're going to be able to see some logs here. And meanwhile, I'm gonna take a look at some Netlify docs that try to explain how we would deploy a Vue app. Deploying on Netlify. Let's see. npm run build. Okay, so maybe this is okay. We'll see. We'll just give it a little bit of time. So I'll be back once this finishes. Okay, so it looks like there's more stuff going on here. And the flat build, some metadata. It's running the build command. We fixed it, so the build has been complete. Now it's doing some post-processing. Looks like it finished building. So let's take a look at the very top. open production deploy. There we go. So now we have this this app here. And now I'm actually trying to figure out, I'm on the main branch. Is this looking at the right branch? Let's take a look at deploy settings. Manage repository, branches, main branch, deploy only on the production branch. Okay, so that's fine, but the problem is that's not the main branch. The main branch does have all these commits. That is the main branch, but it looks like it was only doing the initial commit. So I wonder what's wrong. I wonder what's wrong with this app. Oh, YouTube Looper. Oh, there we go. Cool. So if you do the same thing as I did before, and I paste in, you know, a different YouTube video. Let's do something that actually has like official whatever. Yeah, doesn't really matter. Let's just paste that in. Load video. Good. So now, okay, we're gonna mute it. We're gonna play. Let's just do this one. Start. And then end. So now it's just gonna replay these 3 seconds that I captured. So that's how you build your own YouTube looper. And yeah, I hope you learned something at the end of this. I will be expanding upon this, so please leave comments on what you'd like to see more of. This is my first time working with Vue, and yeah, there's definitely a lot more to this, but I think this is a good start for what we're trying to do. And now you don't have to go to the most popular website for YouTube Looper. And now you also have a YouTube Looper that's that has timestamps that are more granular than the one that they offer with YouTube on repeat, listen on repeat.com. And so, yeah, I hope you all have a good day. And yeah, if you want more content, please let me know. Your feedback is important for me to gauge what kind of content you all want next. And if there are parts that you didn't understand, please ask, and I'll get back to you. So thank you, and talk to you next time. Bye.